WNST, being over in Australia and New Zealand, they play baseball in Australia. I saw tons of baseball caps everywhere, and 'tis the season. This guy's been on the road with the Cactus out in Arizona, now down in Florida, chasing around baseball players. I'll be out in Arizona 3 weeks from now for the NFL owners' meetings, so I'll get to see a little Cactus baseball. One of my favorite things in the world to do, Bob Nightingale, is to sit like in Scottsdale or Talking Stick or down there at the Little A in Tempe watching the Angels. Good times to watch Cactus baseball, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix is so convenient. You can, every camp is within 20 minutes of each other, just about. So is, a fun place to be. You don't have to drive much, and the nightlife, the social life is unbelievable with all the restaurants and bars and nightclubs in Scottsdale.
It's a really incredible baseball thing. Just when you land at the airport, all you see are baseball hats in Phoenix. I don't think a lot of people know that. And certainly here in Oriole land and the Phillies, the Nationals, the type of teams that people would be excited about in my part of the world. No one goes to Arizona for spring training. And I say, if you haven't been to Arizona for spring training, you kind of haven't been to spring training to some degree.
Yeah, it's it used to be almost a dying thing. It used to only be 6 teams out there. At one point, is it all going to be in Florida? And then they started building these just beautiful ballparks. And most of these stadiums have 2 teams. And a lot of these places are nicer, the clubhouse is nicer than the regular Major League ballparks. So it's if you have your choice, you want to be in Arizona, just with everything going on. The only thing you don't have is you don't have the water. So you missed that part.
Well, you don't have rain either, so you actually get the games in.
Right. I'll tell you what, it was a strange first couple of weeks in Arizona. There was 1 week where it was actually warmer in Chicago than it was in Phoenix.
Yeah, I saw some stuff on Twitter when I was over in Australia that people were freezing their toes off early in the morning. I haven't been to the new Cubs park out there. Let's start at the top. I'll get to the Orioles and all that. Bob Nightingale, of course, from USA Today, one of our defending champions. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at @bnightingale and, of course, at usatoday.com. Nobody's covered the game longer or better. Let's start with the Cubs. They won 103 last year. They didn't win the World Series going away in a 3-game sweep as many would have thought, but they did get the job done. They had a parade. The level of expectation there, they've built that new ballpark out in Arizona. I can't imagine the level of excitement and sort of the afterglow of all this. But then comes the next act, which is they're expected to win again, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. The teams are remembered are the ones that win multiple years. Like the Blue Jays did, and of course, the Yankees, the last team to do in the National League, the Big Red Machine, back in 75, 76. Those are the teams that are really remembered. And, they love to go back-to-back, and the fans are going nuts there. I was there for the first spring training game. There must have been 500-600 fans just lined up on the pathway to watch the players go in the golf carts past them on the way to the stadium. Huge standing ovation when they took the field. So people are going wild already in Mesa, Arizona.
Well, and then there's the Dexter Fowler thing, and Lord knows we lived through that a year ago this week. I was out in Indy at the Combine last year thinking Fowler was headed to Orioles camp. He heads back to Chicago. He gets a ring. Everyone says, he left money on the table, and then lo and behold, he winds up not only being in St. Louis, but being the center of a pretty large controversy a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, he wound up getting, $82 million, so it all worked out for him. People say, well, yeah, he did leave money on the table the first year, but it sure paid off the second year and every year after that. So, it's good to be Dexter Fowler right now. I mean, you're part of history with that first World Series ring. And now you got the big payday.
Well, you're trying to make up 17 and a half games if you're the Cardinals, and I guess the first thing on the Cubs is who can catch them in that division. My guess is no one.
Yeah, no one's going to catch them. No one's going to catch the Cleveland Indians. I mean, there's no reason in the world we can't have a rematch in 2017. But yeah, the Cubs are that good. And everybody else in the division, the Pirates and Cardinals have some holes. And then, of course, the Brewers and Reds are, rebuilding. So there's really no reason the Cubs can't win 100 games again.
Well, you start to talk about the Indians, and I guess it's been a little while since you've made that trip. I guess it's west out in the desert there to Goodyear and see what they got cooking up. Ever so close last year to completing the daily double of the LeBron Tito sweep there. But, for the Indians, they went out, spent money in the offseason. I know that's been a big bone of contention amongst their fan base there is, how hard were they trying to win for a period of time? And now they find themselves, along with the Red Sox, I think, as going away favorites in the American League this year.
Yeah, and they went on and got Boone Logan, and of course the big one, Encarnacion, when they could come to an agreement, with the with Mike Napoli, and it's a better team, on paper than a year ago. Now, of course, you get all the stars healthy, and that's amazing. They went as far as they did with two of their starters down, in the entire postseason. So, yeah, they got to be the prohibitive favorites in the American League.
Well, I think more than the Red Sox having spent all the money and bringing Sale in and signing Price and Porcello the previous year, the Indians are doing it from the ground up with these guys that you still feel like you haven't seen their best efforts, and certainly, three of them weren't given a chance to even show their best efforts in October. I think that probably leaves a lot of those guys, not only the fact that they didn't win Game 7, but sort of chomping at the bit. I mean, unlike the Falcons, who blew a 28-3 lead, I see the Indians is not at all sort of disarmed by not making it last year, maybe showing even more resolve this year.
Yeah, I mean, I know, they were up 3-1, but, it wasn't like they, I don't think they even had a lead, at least certainly not an early lead in games 5, 6, or 7. So, they're blown out in Game 6 and never led in Game 7. So, yeah, I mean, I think the better team won. It was, unbelievable they went as far as they did. And I think they got to say, you know what, now we got the confidence that we know what we can do. And there's no reason to roll why they won't be back playing in late October, early November.
Bob Nightingale joining us here from USA Today. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at @bnightingale as well as at usatoday.com. I know you were out there, I want to stay west with you because you were in Phoenix for a couple of weeks chasing these teams around. Tell me about the Texas Rangers. I mean, there's the team there. Many wouldn't tell you they won the most games last year in the American League. You talked about Mike Napoli and what happened there. They certainly picked him up. They've spent money. They did the trading deadline deal a year and a half ago and made that huge surge. And from that period forward, they've been the best team in the American League overall.
Yeah, I mean it's a. You look at that team, and there's no reason why they won't. The Red Sox should run away with the AL East. They're a very good team. I mean, you're talking about Price now and Porcello, and of course Chris Sale. Very, very good team. A lot of young talent, and they're going for it now. I mean, they're give away some of the farm system to go get a Chris Sale. And, they're certainly the team to beat in the AL East.
Rangers, no, not the team to beat?
Yeah, I would say still the Red Sox guys. The only thing about the Rangers that kind of scare you, just age. Let's see what Yu Darvish looks like. Hamill had a good start, kind of faded at the end. Still a very good team, but the thing that scares you is that division. I mean, the Houston Astros are loaded. They'll probably get one more starter, and the Seattle Mariners are coming on. So I think that division is going to be a real dogfight.
Yeah, I thought the Astros were going to be the best team last year. They got off to such a horrible start that they couldn't find their way. And, I think when your ace turns out to be either unavailable or ineffective, in the case of the Astros last year, certainly the falling of grace, for the front end of their rotation in Dallas Keuchel, there's got to be a rebound there, right?
Yeah, I mean, their stars will be healthy. They picked up 3 free agents. Josh Reddick and Carlos Beltran and Brian McCann. So it should be a much better team.
Well, the one thing they didn't have were veterans there in Houston, right? It was all very, very young.
Yeah, it was, and they did so much the year before. It's like people, really got excited, like here's a year. But really, they were kind of building towards 17, 18 anyway. So there's no reason why they won't have a monster year this year, particularly if they will get a Jose Quintana from the Chicago White Sox.
Bob, we sit here and talk about all these other teams. It's time to talk about the Orioles. I know you haven't made your way to Sarasota. I know you'll be getting there at some point this week. These other teams make these offseason acquisitions, and I'm not here to urinate on the Trumbo thing, but clearly the pitching has been the issue here, and buying from the dumpster, whether it's Gallardo or Jimenez, and now they're going to resuscitate Jimenez one more time, and they march him out there again for another spring training because they can't get rid of him. They got to pay him. I am very concerned about the Orioles' rotation, and certainly on the first day of spring training, when the first news is Chris Tillman's going to be unavailable on opening day. It is a little disconcerting given that we're sitting here talking about all these other teams as being a potential to win 100 games. I'm trying to figure out how the Orioles are going to be a 500 team if their pitching doesn't look a lot better than it does on paper.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be some surprises. Gosman's going to have to be, a 20-game winner, or at least an 18-game winner, for them to have a chance. And I agree, just the pitching scares you. Obviously, they have a great offensive team. They got Trumbo back as a steal. So they're going to have to outslug people and hope to kind of piecemeal that rotation like they did a year ago.
Little beer league softball. I've been talking a lot about the Yankees. I know there's a lot of excitement down there and a lot less drama than maybe there used to be. The thing that worries me about the Yankees isn't just the youth, but the fact that how badly they want to win, and if they find themselves in the race in any way, and you feel like they've been out of the race. They won 84 games last year. Sort of patching it together with rubber bands and Elmer's glue at some point. Now they have this youth movement. We saw some of their young players start to emerge when given an opportunity in August and September of last year. They're going to be able to make moves at the trading deadline the other way to acquire veteran players. I'm very concerned about the Yankees in the coming years, but certainly even this year, I think they can make some strides.
I don't agree with that. I think they made so many strides last year. They overachieved. I could see him finishing in last place. I really could. I don't see Sanchez doing that kind of thing. Bird missed all last year. We'll see what he does. And I think the trade deadline, I think they're still gearing up for that big 2018 free agent class. They don't want to spend money. They're waiting on Harper. They're waiting on Machado, and those type of guys. So I think it's a situation where they're content to rebuild. Just like the Cubs did, just like the Astros did.
By the way, you mentioned Machado here in this market. That's an explosive topic here, and that's another incredible disappointment with the Angelos family here, that you finally draft a Cal Ripken, you finally draft the next coming of Eddie Murray or Frank Robinson or Brooks Robinson, and all we talk about here is where he's going to be playing 2 years from now. And clearly for the Orioles, if they should fall behind this year and they get into that situation in July where things aren't going well and they're not going to make the playoffs, a sell-off here would have to, if you're clear-headed, involve Machado if you're not going to give him $400 million, right?
It could be. I mean, you might as well wait till next trade deadline, or even the off season this winter before you do that. I can't see him trading him, unless it's just a complete disaster the first half. You might as well wait a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, with the money that's going to be out there, there's no reason Machado won't get as much as Harper, if not more. I mean, he's probably looking at at least over $350 million.
Well, that's what we've been hearing everywhere on the street. Bob Nightingale joining us here from USA Today. Last thing for you, Bob. This World Baseball Classic's about to commence. I'm sure from your perspective, there's not one manager, not one player you've talked to that hasn't talked about how this is going to affect not only spring training, but the thoughts at the beginning of the year, especially for these guys making this trip all the way to the Far East.
Yeah, I mean, no team likes to lose their guys. You kind of worry about what happens, particularly with the pitchers. You'd rather have a guy stay around for team camaraderie, but the players have a blast doing it. I mean, it's it's kind of like a spring break, or like their spring Florida break type thing, where the guys that do it, just a break from the monotony and everything else. So the players absolutely love it, and the clubs absolutely hate it.
Well, and Rob Manfred loves it, right? And when you say the clubs hate it, but the owners must check off on it, I'm still scratching my head wondering why they really do it. Is there anybody out there that becomes a baseball fan because of this, or finds baseball through this in Korea or in the Dominican or in Cuba or any of these places where baseball's already baseball, and it's such not a real tournament when you have pitch counts and whatnot? I don't think there's any real glory in winning it. It's sort of like an all-star game that doesn't end for a week and a half.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a much bigger thing, obviously, to foreign countries than U.S. I mean, there's a reason why the U.S. has never made it to the finals. It's just that the other countries are so much fired up for it, a little bit like a Caribbean World Series. So, it'll keep going. They just do it to get a international appeal, thinking that, okay, you have these WBCs and more people around the world will be interested in baseball. That, it's more of a marketing concept than anything else. And since there's no Olympics, they try to peg it as Olympics. It's not, at least you wearing the U.S. jerseys and all that. So it'll never be like the Olympics. But for now, it's the best thing to it.
Yeah, it's the best they can do in every 4 years, but it is incredibly disruptive. And I attended one of the games out at Dodger Stadium 8 years ago. I saw Japan play the U.S. out there. It was incredibly exciting. I mean, there were 45,000 Japanese fans all screaming for Ichiro and Daisuke. You could certainly sense the passion there, and there was nobody there waving the United States flag, rooting for poor Brian Robertson. I think Oswald pitched the night I was there. I got caught up in it for a minute, but then you realize it really is sort of exhibition baseball, and I know how much these managers are going to be screaming, especially if any of their guys get hurt, and it's bound to happen, right? Somebody's going to get hurt during this thing.
Yeah, I mean, even last time Marcus Scherr got hurt just by, in batting practice, just, spraying some ligaments in his wrist, that sort of thing. So, and sometimes guys get hurt, particularly the foreign pitchers, during the course of the season, because they went so hard during the WBC, and they weren't quite ready. So sometimes you worry about more the pitchers pitching for the foreign countries that it means so much, where at least in the U.S. it's like, it's not that big of a deal. If you win it, great. But for the other teams, I remember when Canada beat USA in Phoenix the first round, when those Canadian players got back to their hotels, the bar just exploded. Everybody's high-fiving the players. They were kings of the day.
Hey, man, great having you on as always. Enjoy your travels there. Work on your tan a little bit, Bob. It's March. These cold as hell games are coming down the pike next month. So even with global warming, enjoy yourself down there in Florida. Hope to see you out in Arizona in a couple weeks, too.
All right, sounds good, buddy.
You got it. Bob Nightingale joining us here from usatoday.com. You can also follow his journey out on Twitter at @BNightingale. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. On your mobile device, just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. No static at all, just like Steely Dan. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It's still $10 a month to get in shape, and there's one right around the corner from you. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST text service. If you're on that, you get the news first. No questions asked, whether it's Orioles, Terps, Ravens, and certainly the Ravens could be making some news here in the coming days with free agency coming, cuts coming. We saw John Harbaugh at the podium on Wednesday in Indianapolis at the Combine. Watching spring training baseball. I'm monitoring the Caps, the Wizards, the Terps. We got the Big Ten tournament next week. We've got our trip to London on sale at WNST.net under the Trips tab right now. And last but never least, Coach Barry Trotz of the Rock the Red first place President's Trophy type Caps coming to Baltimore on March 20th. We'll have more details for you on that next week. Just make sure you hold that date if you're a Caps fan. Monday, March 20th. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Red Stream for There Goes My Hero, along with Coach Trotz for the third year in a row. We love us some Trotzy. 700 wins. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.